And welcome back here to SteveDeace.com. I have with me again today my good friend Jake Velie, who's one of the major reasons I don't look like this anymore. This is pretty close to what I looked like when I first walked in to Jake's office 4 years ago. He helped me to get healthy. He's still helping me to get healthy. And I think one of the things we should talk about is exactly what we did first and foremost to make, before we get to what we're doing now to get over some of this, and you always are going to run into obstacles and plateaus, and you got to change things around and shake things up. One thing I think people don't understand: God made your body to conserve energy, so you almost have to trick it sometimes to get it to burn metabolically more than maybe it thinks it has to. But when we made this very first progression from these pictures here to the way I look today, what did we do that would be different than what would happen if I just would have walked into some chain store and said, hey, regulate my diet and help me to lose weight?
Yeah. Well, first, we did a lot of testing just to see where your initial health was, which, again, the health side of things was a lot more important to us to begin with than just the cosmetic side of weight loss and things, because I
think that's key, because if the body is working the way it's supposed to, then it will, again, God has also designed it that it will take care of itself, right?
Of course, yep.
Okay.
And so the big thing is obviously in being overweight and being as big as you were, there were a lot of signs on the outside that there were things going on the inside. So we took a look at everything. We got all the levels. We found out kind of where your health was at. At that time, you were at risk of a lot of different things.
Pretty much everything.
Pretty much, yeah. So there was, pre-diabetes and, what they would call metabolic syndrome or syndrome X. Probably a lot of the various different things that a lot of the viewers are out there, struggling with, or maybe even taking medication for. You were at the point of needing medication based on the conventional medical's viewpoint, and at that point you opted out and said, we're going to do this thing. So I think moving into the beginning of the program, the primary things were, first of all, to make sure that we progressed appropriately. We didn't move you immediately into exercise that was not suited for you. A lot of people don't realize that your possibility for heart attack increases by 77% when you begin a new exercise
And there was concern about that when I first started.
There was a lot of concern, because to get blood all over your body, you got a little heart with a big body, and then you got issues when you're trying to exercise and do more like that. This
is one of the obstacles I hear from people a lot, Jake. It's that the things I need to do to get healthy, my body will not let me do, so I feel trapped, right? It's a catch-22. I'm concerned that what I need to do in terms of getting my heart rate up, having the level of fitness I have to kick my metabolism into gear, is not good for my heart and my system because of the stress it'll put on it at the same time. So there is a fine line there, isn't there?
There is, and the first thing that we had to do was to begin your meal planning process and to make sure that there were nutrients available for your blood and for your muscles and everything that needed nutrients to build your stamina and get you to a point where exercise was appropriate. And then we had to make sure that when we began movement, that it was the type of movement that wasn't going to jeopardize injury, it wasn't going to jeopardize your joints and those types of things. So in the beginning process, I think probably the biggest thing for you was the entire intake was completely customized, as it was for obviously everyone else that we worked with as well. So. All
right, so you get into the workouts. Common mistakes people make when they're working out. Hey, you know what? No pain, no gain.
Right.
If I do this 3 hours a day, I'll lose more weight. Right? It's not that simple, is it?
No, and
maybe actually work against yourself.
Yeah, it actually, let's kind of flip it a little bit. It's actually more simple than that. Most people, when they think of exercise, they think of kind of the commercialized idea of exercise in America, which is kind of this Biggest Loser concept. This, for some reason, the lay people in society think that they need to look to Olympic athletes to look at, this is what exercise is, or that's how we frame up a definition. And the bottom line is exercise is not that type of exertion. So most people actually are far overtraining. And then if they're not doing that much, they think they failed and they quit altogether. So it's actually more of a gradual move into movement and exercise, kind of leaving yourself wanting more, and then building up a program or a process that helps to maximize the time that you're spending. Right now, you're not spending more than what 2 hours of exercise a week.
Of intensive, organized exercise.
Right.
Doesn't count, you know, we go play basketball on a
Right.
weekend. But yeah, in terms of the organized, you know, regimen that we have, what I'm doing right now, it's about 2-3 hours a week.
So what we like to do is we like to look at what's the minimum amount of work that we have to do to trigger the innate intelligence of the body to get the hormone response that we want and to get the response in the lean tissue that we want, so that you can maximize your lean muscle tissue. We can make sure that your metabolism is running at an appropriate rate, and your body is producing the hormones and chemicals that will actually help to make sure that you don't add excess body fat, that you're actually using excess body fat for fuel. Mm-hmm. And that's probably one of the biggest things is people don't realize is the more you exercise, it's actually more of a signal to your body to store. It will try to hold on to energy stores because it kind of signifies that you're running from a tiger.
Exactly.
So the more strenuous the exercise and the longer the exercise is, the more free radical buildup in the body. And for many of us, it's not appropriate for the type of health and the type of image that we're trying to work out for. It's more appropriate for an Olympic athlete who's trying to condition themselves to
Right.
be able to run a certain distance or try to do a certain thing with their body. But on a lifetime basis, on a day-to-day health basis, exercise needs to look a lot different than what most people have thought.
I think you just said the key phrase there, lifetime basis. We have sort of been worked over by this Biggest Loser culture. I go to a camp, I let them kick my ass for 3, 4, 5, 6 months, and then the rest of my life I live healthy. Well, what studies tend to show, when you take that approach, you end up doing what after a year or two?
Yeah.
You put most of the weight you just lost back on.
Right.
Similar to you go to a lot of these national weight loss places, and they are effective, that's why there's so many of them. You will lose weight. But there's a difference between a diet, I learned, and living healthy. There's a lot of you that over the course of the last 4 years may have had better cosmetic results than I've had, even comparing to what I used to look like before I came to you.
Sure.
But the difference is, unlike a lot of you, I haven't had wild swings these last few years. I didn't lose 80 pounds and put 40 of it back on, and then have to fight to take another 30 of the 40 I just put back on. I have pretty much been within a 10 to 20 pound radius this weight since I ended the first militant phase of this program with you 3.5 years ago.
Yeah.
It took about 6 months to get there.
Right.
And I've pretty much been within this weight. You know, I've gotten a little leaner. You know, wintertime, maybe I'll slack off a little bit, put on an extra 10 pounds. But I haven't had, and we have monitored this,
Right.
I have been able to successfully maintain this as a lifestyle for the last few years.
Right.
And then this year I decided, hey, let's kick it up a notch, maybe try to go down another 20, 30 pounds and try to get a little bit healthier. But I think the difference here is that we have made this is now a part of the way I live every single day.
Right.
It's not a diet. This isn't something I do for a while to deprive myself, to punish myself, to make up for all the bad stuff I did to myself, to get myself to this point.
Right.
This is the way now that I live my life, and my body becomes accustomed to it, so it doesn't seem like it's a challenge or a chore. Oh, I don't want to eat that, or oh, I got to go to the gym. Instead, I am progressing my body and conditioning that this is how we live now.
Yeah, and what a lot of people need to kind of reprogram their mind to, it's a different thought loop. It's thinking over the course of 5 to 10 years, and what is happening in my health over that period of time versus most of us who would start a program, and if in 6 weeks or
Right.
or maybe you give it 8 weeks. If you're not seeing exactly what you want to see, and again, most of the time our criteria for what we want to see is completely off base.
Yes. One thing I learned when I was really overweight is I was more overweight than what I saw when I was in the mirror.
Right.
Now that I've lost a bunch of weight, I have a tendency to see myself as more overweight as I did before. The mirror, your mind will play tricks on you. That's depending on where you're at. You will rationalize things one way or the other.
So a lot of us, we take this short-term goal instead of thinking about what is my health going to look like over the next 5 to 10 years, and how is that going to affect my children? How is my example going to lead them to live healthier lives? It's all about this short-term thing. So it's more of a spinning and kind of a turning of the tables, and more looking over the long term, the changes that need to be made, and the type of program that you want to go after is the type of program that's actually going to help you put slow and stable progress in place, and your results actually might be fast up front. I don't want to kid anyone. I mean, you lost 45 pounds of pure body fat in in less than 12 weeks. That is not slow progress at all. However, it was steady. And what happened was is you got to where, kind of where you needed to be in that point in your life, and you maintained. And a lot of people need to understand is you don't need to hit that goal ultimately all at one chunk. It's much more healthy to take time and not revert all the way back. Because what most people do is they become so militant, they do it, they reach their goal, and it was so outside of their normal lifestyle.
They trade one emotional response that led them to mistreating food and their lifestyle in the first place, and then the pendulum swings too far the other way, right? And so now I'm too emotional about how I'm supposed to get healthy, and if I don't get the satisfaction I'm looking for, then I kind of give up.
You end up reverting right back to where you came from, which is actually completely natural. So that is why, from the very beginning we approached it the way we did. And I'd say that's a lot why you've been able to maintain a lot of the health results that you got immediately, and the lab work shows it.
Now, one of the things you're working on now is you're working on a new fitness program with Healthy for Life. Over the next few months, we're going to hear more about that. But as we wrap up this video today and sort of introduce people to this, this is something you and I have discussed for the last 4 years since we became friends. Yeah. And one of the things that's interesting is when you go through this process, this becomes very personal, because a lot of people carry a lot of baggage along with how they look and their health and self-esteem and those kinds of things, and you really got to let your guard down and let people be honest with you and be transparent if you're going to confront that, right? Well, let me see if I can maybe get you to do the same thing with me.
Sure.
Because one of the things you and I have discussed over the last few years is that it is the biggest challenge I think Americans have to getting healthy is a matter of convenience. We are a convenience-based culture now, and it is much more convenience. I look at our own family. Married, we got 3 kids, 10 and under. It is so much easier after working all day long and having to raise them all day long to just say, hey, go to the store, grab supper in a box, brown and serve, put it on the table, feed the kids. We're stressed out enough. Right. It is the culture right now, the way that it's set up in the minds of many Americans, it is not conducive to being, it's convenient to be healthy. And the perception is this is more expensive, this is more labor intensive. And what I'm going to be interested to see is if the program at Healthy for Life is going to be able to demonstrate that it is convenient to live healthy. You just maybe have to change some of your definitions of what convenient actually looks like.
Well, and that's the thing is, and we talked about this morning when we were working out. Was there's intelligent convenience, which is convenience that literally increases your capacity to do things. It increases your knowledge. And it speeds things up. And then there's kind of this illusion of convenience, which is the things in our lives that we try to use to speed things up. But under the surface, when we utilize those tactics, they're actually causing a lot more problems that we may not be aware of right then, that will pop up later. But those issues that we're causing and that we can't see, those are what we really are wanting to look at. And that's where in the whole Healthy for Life University program, it's a process of helping to kind of peel back the layers of the onion and help people design and develop really convenient ways in their home to begin to establish new lifestyle patterns that are going to speed things up, but also increase their health and bring the health of their family up at the same time.
Well, we look forward to hearing more about that in the future, Jake. You have an email address if people want to contact you?
Email is jake@healthyforlifeuniversity.com.
Hey, thanks for joining us the last couple of days, brother. We appreciate it.
It's been my pleasure. Thanks.
And thanks for joining us each and every day here at stevedeace.com. If you want to email me, it's steve@stevedeace.com. You can also find us on Facebook at Steve and Deace or on Twitter at Steve_.